Where's our 200 million war chest? Where was our 200 million war chest when we won the Champions League? Where was it when we won the Premier League? Where was it when we were 2 games away from winning the quadruple and making Premier League history? What is up, guys? It's James from Cop Logic, and boy, do we have some stuff to talk about today. First of all, let me start with some good news, something potentially promising before we get into the bad stuff. Khéphren Thuram, it looks like, will be Liverpool's next big move. David Lynch did mention yesterday that Liverpool are now expected to choose from a short list of players, including the likes of Khéphren Thuram, Manu Kone, and Gabri Veiga, who we've all spoke about already. There were reports last night that suggested Liverpool are putting 100% of their effort into Khéphren Thuram to get him over the line before they pursue other targets. So effectively, everyone else is on hold for now while we get this deal over the line one way or another. It was reported yesterday that PSG and Newcastle United have both pulled out of the race. They were 2 clubs that were also interested in Khéphren Thuram, which only leaves Liverpool now as an interested party. I think originally Nice wanted to drive a bit of a bidding war to get as much as they could for the player. That of course can't happen if there's only one club involved in the buy. So hopefully we can get that over the line one way or another fairly soon, and then I think we will start hearing more news about the likes of Manu Kone or even Gabri Veiga. In regards to Gabri Veiga, there is a little bit of news there as well. I'll probably put up a short just talking about that later today, so keep an eye out for that. Now on to the main topic of this video, which is FSG. Paul Joyce has confirmed today that Calvin Ramsay will leave the club on loan to Preston North End. It's a season-long loan, and the reason being Liverpool believe that Calvin Ramsay needs regular game time, which that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that inherently. But what that means is we have a little bit of a right-back situation now, right? Because Trent, obviously, he's our starting right-back. He's pretty much going to be expected to play every single game if we have no Calvin Ramsay. Calvin Ramsay was brought in supposed to be rotation for Trent. Now, if he goes out on loan, that leaves a lot of pressure on Trent in order to stay fit for the whole campaign. I also don't think it's wise to expect Trent to play every single game, especially in this new role where he's pushing forward into midfield. So what's that going to mean for the right back situation? Well, we do have Joe Gomez. I like Joe Gomez as a right back. I'm not going to lie about that. Defensively, he's good and he's got the pace to get back. His awareness has been lacking in times in that central defensive role, but you know, when you're playing on the right side in a fullback position, effectively the touchline is your friend. You only really have to look at the forwards, and the left side of the pitch is your sort of scope. So it takes a little bit of pressure off defensively, which is probably a good thing for Joe Gomez. But putting Joe Gomez in the right back role is a compromise, which I don't believe is good enough. Now, I know we've been linked to the likes of Benjamin Pavard, who is a right back, but I just don't see us getting that deal over the line. And my reason being is because we already know that Liverpool in this window are looking at 3 midfielders. They've already got McAllister over the line. It looks like Khéphren Thuram will be next, and then I imagine we'll start seeing links heat up for other players. Hopefully, in my opinion, Manu Kone, but we'll see. The problem there is that after that, Liverpool are prioritising a centre-back. So I don't see where a right-back really comes into that discussion. Now, there is potential to, and hear me out here, this is going to sound crazy, but there is potential to use Jordan Henderson as a right back next season. We did it with James Milner, and Jordan Henderson is going to take on that James Milner role. But I also think if Trent is going to keep that role where he pushes forwards into midfield, at least if you play Jordan Henderson as a right back in such a case as we need to rest Trent, or Trent picks up an injury, which touch wood he doesn't, at least Jordan Henderson's got experience in the midfield. They could also do the same with Stefan Bajcetic, which again, I know that sounds crazy. Is it good enough? No. Is it just papering over the cracks? Yes. Is that what FSG like to do? Yes. Let's be honest. That's what James Milner's been doing at this club for the last couple of seasons, and losing him, it could actually be a huge loss, because the amount of positions that man could play, the amount of times he saved us, you might think he wasn't good enough to play here or play there, but the point is he did it, and he was someone that we could rely on in those times where we were picking up injuries, etc, etc. So is it good enough that Jordan Henderson or even Stefan Bajcetic could become a potential right back rotation option? No. But is it the kind of thing FSG do? Yes. And that's kind of my problem. I don't think that this is good enough. I don't think FSG are doing enough. I don't believe that this is acceptable for Liverpool Football Club. In my opinion, FSG have to be doing more. This is Liverpool Football Club, and I just don't feel like they got the memo. I wish I could say that that was my only current issue with FSG, but it's not, because unfortunately Fabrizio Romano was on That's Football last night and he spoke a little bit about Liverpool and the targets we're looking at. One of those players was Yosco, and Romano had this to say: Liverpool like Yosco, but they won't do anything crazy, and this one could be too expensive. The budget is important. Now, the budget is important. I don't want to be one of these clubs that just spends crazy money, but Yosco, his rumoured price is, according to Build, is going to be around about £86 million. Now, funnily enough, that's the same price that Real Madrid have just, at least initial price, is what Real Madrid have just paid for Jude Bellingham, another player that we were linked to. Now, if Jude Bellingham was in the 100 million plus range, I would understand us walking away from that, but 86 million, that feels like something a club the size of Liverpool Football Club should be able to afford, and yet here we are, we've lost out on Jude Bellingham, and it looks like we're going to lose out on Gvardiol as well. What bothers me is these are two players that Jurgen Klopp clearly wanted at the club. Jude Bellingham was clearly a primary target for this club for at least 2 years now, and we've walked away based on the fact he was too expensive. We now find out the price Real Madrid are going to pay is 86 million, and the same for Gvardiol, a player that Jurgen Klopp wants, and it looks like it's going to be too expensive for us at around 86 million. My opinion is that 86 million should not be too much for Liverpool Football Club. Now, to buy both of those players in the same window, okay, that might be a little bit much. I can understand that. That shouldn't be the case. In fact, we should never have been in this situation. FSG have allowed us to get into this situation by not improving the midfield gradually season by season. They've allowed this midfield to stagnate, and they've put us in this situation where we need to buy 3 midfielders in one window, and we're scrambling around trying to pick players up. We've already got McAllister, and we got him on a great deal, 35 million. My only concern is, if McAllister was 70 million, would we have walked away from that? Would that have been too expensive for FSG? These are the concerns that I'm starting to have. Don't get me wrong, I'm not FSG out. I think FSG have done wonderful things for this club. You know, they've brought us into what is probably our best era in the past 30 years. You know, we won a Premier League title under FSG. We've won a Champions League under FSG. We've had great domestic success. They've expanded the stadium. They give us a whole new training ground. You know, they've done great things at this club, but they could be doing better in this current moment. Let's take a club like Arsenal, for example. They've just finished second in the league. They've had a great season, but they finished second. Now, they've been given a 200 million war chest to spend this summer. Where's our 200 million war chest? Where was our 200 million war chest when we won the Champions League? Where was it when we won the Premier League? Where was it when we were 2 games away from winning the quadruple and making Premier League history? Like, the landscape of football is changing, and unless we catch up to it, we are going to get left behind. Let's take, for example, Manchester City and Newcastle United. They're both basically state-owned clubs at this point. They can afford anyone they want. Newcastle are already in Europe. Give them a couple of seasons, they'll be able to buy any player they want, because they'll be that kind of club where, you know, they're in the Champions League season after season, they're winning titles season after season. They'll be able to pick anyone up. They'll be competing directly with Manchester City. We've had reports just yesterday that the Qatari bid for Manchester United has been successful, which would mean Manchester United will become a state-owned club. They'll be in the same position right away. They'll be able to buy anyone they want because they're Manchester United. They've got that stature as a massive club, which Liverpool also are. We just apparently don't have the money to buy anyone. Now, that would mean that 3 of the 4 Champions League slots are pretty much taken every year, guaranteed: City, United, Newcastle, and we'd be left fighting with the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, potentially Tottenham for that 4th spot, which is going to make things very, very difficult. You know, Manchester City have created this world where the likes of a Jack Grealish is a £100 million player, which, you know, he's subpar for £100 million, but that's the landscape that they've created. And you know, we're at a point now where any English player is £100 million before you even open the conversation. It's crazy, and I totally understand that this is not the landscape of football that FSG bought into. It wasn't how football was when they came to the club, and perhaps they never expected it to get to this point, and I think that's fair. But I would say, if they're in a position where they believe they've taken this club as far as they can go, and they can't financially support the club in this landscape, they should actively be looking for a means to do that, either through outside investment or through selling the club. And listen, I am not saying that I want to be a state-owned club. I would rather not be a state-owned club. There is a lot of moral issues around that, and I'll leave that for the likes of a Manchester United fan to decide, because, you know, they're currently facing that dilemma. I don't think we need to be a state-owned club to compete with these teams. Under a manager like Jurgen Klopp, he's done absolute wonders at this club, and with the right players, he could do it again. We could compete with City if we had the right players. Now, I hope we get those right players in. There are strong links with Khéphren Thuram, and there are some great players at great prices that we could potentially get this summer. It's not all doom and gloom, but I just think what really bothers me is the report on Gvardiol that at 86 million he's too much money, and at 86 million Jude Bellingham is too much money. Liverpool Football Club should be able to afford players in the 86 million range. I feel like FSG, if that's their limit, they can't go higher than the 80 million mark. You know, we got Núñez in for 80 million, but on the same hand, we had to get rid of Sadio Mane to allow that deal to happen. If 80 million is the most that they're willing to spend on a player, I'm not sure that's good enough. One more thing just to mention, Kylian obviously confirmed, it's confirmed yesterday via Fabrizio Romano that Kylian wants to leave PSG. Now, we definitely aren't in the race for that. There's absolutely no way that we'll be putting a bid. We won't even look at the situation, right? Because we can't even afford an £86 million player. You can forget him coming to this club. But it's just another example of, you know, Liverpool aren't even in the race for these players, and I feel like a club the size of Liverpool should be in a race for these players. I just don't feel like at this moment in time FSG are doing enough. This is Liverpool Football Club, and they could be doing more, and I feel that they can do more. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, specifically around FSG. Do you want them in? Do you want them out? Are you happy with what they're doing? Do you think they could be doing more? Let me know in the comments, and stay tuned for that Gabri Veiga update. Should be coming to the channel today, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.